Best laid plans, am I right? When I got my hands on the Snap-G, I thought this is going to be an amazing handheld camera with a built-in gimbal to take to Vegas. I was going to check out the latest Saints Row, get a little bit of walk around on the town, and I couldn't think of a better place to do a whole lot of testing on this camera. Well, my gallbladder had other ideas, and then I got COVID on top of it. So all plans ruined, all plans canceled. So today we're going to unbox the Snap-G, and I'm going to come up with at least something cool to check out with this camera to give you some footage, but sorry folks, no Vegas. So I'm Ron Burke, editor-in-chief for GamingTrend.com. I'm finally free of COVID. My gallbladder's wherever the hell it is after the doctor took it out. Let's unbox this thing and see what's inside. Now this will be the shortest unboxing in history if I don't charge this thing, so we're gonna do a little time-lapse action here and I'll be right back. All right, so we've charged the device. I do like that it's USB-C, thank you very much for that. And we have a micro SD card, like the kind you'd put in your phone. That's what this device uses for its storage, and it goes right there inside the charging port. Just above it there is a little spot for this. So we'll get that in there. Get this closed up. There's another thing that I noticed while I was getting this all set up. And it's probably one of the better features. You can swap the battery. This has a removable battery. It's an SGBA20. I looked that up on Amazon and I couldn't find one yet, but this looks like a fairly simple commodity battery. So I'm gonna imagine that we're gonna see a lot of these on the market. I know that I have a lot of batteries that are fairly common, like these for my Canon cameras. This one's Canon, the one that's sitting under it, definitely not. So, but this is 2000 milliamps, so that should carry us at least a little ways. We'll have to see how that tests when we get in the field. But we're gonna plug that back in. It does have an external port here for an external microphone, so you could use like a Rode camera, and it does have a threaded spot here to hook it up to like a camera tripod or really any other kind of cage device or whatever. Obviously you want this to be compact, so the more things you stick on it, the less compact it gets. But it is nice that that's threaded. I did grab this because I could see using this device with this little Gorilla Pod, this Joby Pod here, and wrapping it around whatever to get whatever action shots. So nice that it includes that. I've definitely seen a lot of gimbal devices that do not. Comparatively, this is a little bit bigger than its contemporaries. If you've used things like the DJI Pocket, this is a little bit bigger, but that 2-inch screen, I mean, you can see it. That's a big start for me towards the positive, and it fires up pretty much instantly. You can see my camera stuff on the other side there. So it has a simple thumbstick for moving the camera around. It shoots in 4K 30 or 4K 60 or 1080p or anything in between, and we're gonna have to really get into the settings and see how all that works. But I do know this is one of them, so if I were to point this up, we're going to point this way up, and then I double tap it, it's going to move it back down to center, and if I triple tap it, it's going to swing back to me. Hi Mom. So that's pretty cool for your blog situation, where you can easily whip it around and shoot from the front, and then whip it back around to whatever. I know it also does slow motion. We'll have to mess with that and see how it works. But a fully charged battery is supposed to last around 2.5 hours. I have it set to 4K 60, and I'm gonna do some slow motion recording. I'm gonna do some motion controls. I imagine the more I use the gimbal, the more it's gonna chew the battery. So we'll have to test all that out. The fact that it does have an external USB port for charging also means that we need to test out whether I can use an external battery to this. If I can, then that might extend the battery pretty much indefinitely. As long as I want to keep swapping out batteries, I can keep recording. I put in a 128 gig card, so we'll see how long that lasts. I also want to see what sort of format comes out of this. You know, if it's some sort of weird proprietary format, then that's going to be a pain to put into something like DaVinci Resolve. So I'm going to power down, and I'm going to find something interesting to record, perhaps some 3D printing, and we'll do some time lapse, and we'll do all sorts of fun stuff and see what sort of footage we can pull out of the Snap-G. So join me again shortly. It'll be another time lapse wipe for you, and it'll probably be another week for me. So see you in a bit. So you've seen the footage, but I want to show you exactly how good this gimbal really is. So I'm going to put it in lock by holding this trigger here. And we're going to start to move this around. But what you'll notice is this isn't moving, but this certainly is. So obviously if you go too far, it really tries to compensate, but there's limits, right? But for normal use, I mean, even all the way down to here, it really does stay completely stable. Me running up the stairs at high speed didn't seem to shake it at all. This is by far one of the better gimbals that I've seen. I mean, again, I'm twisting this as much as I want, and you're going to see down here that that image just isn't moving. So the other neat factor is if I move this over the side, I don't have to use this thumb trigger to move it into position. So if I want to snap it back to center, I just double tap and it snaps to center. If I want to take a selfie, I triple tap it, hi there. And I triple tap it and it goes right back to the front. So it's very clear that Snap-G and ThinkWare really put some time and effort into usability. The only thing that I don't like about this camera, the audio. The audio is just a scratchy mess. But down here on the bottom, you'll notice that it does have threads. So what I've done is I've attached a Rode shotgun mic to the bottom of this, and I will show you that footage right about now. That's a pretty big difference, isn't it? So if you want to have like an interview or something like that where you need very clear audio, you're going to want to use an external microphone. Now, thankfully, you can screw that right at the bottom here and it can hang out like this. I will demonstrate that in just a second. And it does go into this jack right here. What you won't find though is a monitor jack. So there's no way to put like a pair of headphones in, but what this does have is a set of little tinny speakers. So the reason why that's a good thing is you can shoot your footage and then you can immediately check and make sure that your audio levels are good or that you're getting audio at all. I can tell you that I have a GoPro that you don't see that GoPro on my videos very often. There's a reason why. I had some really amazing footage, an incredible interview that there's no way I can replicate and it had no audio. So unreliable audio is the worst. You can have terrible out of focus video, but if you don't have good audio, that's the whole shooting match. So being able to put good audio on this, and at least being able to check your work before you close out an interview, or at least take a test and make sure that you're starting with audio of any kind that you could fix in post, is great. So that's a great addition on this camera, and sincerely I wish more companies would at least put a cheap pair of speakers in so you can hear that you are getting audio out of your sample footage. Whether you're shooting video or you're taking pictures, if you swipe up from the bottom here, you're going to be greeted by this screen. So in this screen, you can change your different profiles. So if you want to shoot 1080p and you want to shoot high frame rate, you can set a profile for just that. And if you want to shoot 4K and 60 and also wide instead of 4:3, you can set a second profile for that. So you can set up multiple profiles for various different scenarios, and you can easily swipe between them. Same thing with pictures. You can designate the type of pictures. In both situations, you can set your output format, so maybe MP4 and JPEG or RAW. But all of that can be adjusted just by swiping up and adjusting that user profile. Swiping down from this screen, you're greeted by a number of different configuration options. So you can live stream directly from this device, but to do that, you're going to need Wi-Fi connectivity. So that first one is to set up your Wi-Fi. The second one is a little crosshair, or you see a grid, and that's going to let you set up your rule of thirds. So you're putting your subject in the center, like I am right now, and you're framing out your shot so you keep the user looking at the subject that you want them to look at. This gear up here is kind of the general gear for the camera, so that's all of your various settings, you know, whether it's in English or that kind of thing. This brightness indicator here, I'm going to turn this brightness all the way up. You can see that's pretty bright. It's daylight visible, which is nice, or you can turn it down really low to save battery power. The next one over, that music note, that's going to let you mute the speakers. So if you don't want any sort of playback through the speakers, you can do that. And then this next one is the camera gimbal settings. So this lets you adjust the sensitivity and the speed at which the gimbal will move. Obviously you want smooth movement, not necessarily fast movement. And if you swipe here again, you've got your different framing modes and then your live streaming right there. So let's sum up. I'm really amazed at what Thinkware has been able to pull off with the Snap-G. It's really a versatile camera, and it's able to compare with things like the DJI Pocket 2, which has been kind of the industry leader for a great deal of time. But it delivers some features that, frankly, you just can't get anywhere else. This larger screen is a real game changer. Being able to more accurately frame what I'm looking to shoot and know that I'm getting what I think I'm getting because of the larger screen, that's a game changer. Being able to preview audio, to know that I actually have audio, that's super important to me. Knowing that I can put an external microphone on here, even if it might be a little bizarre. Please don't use the Rode microphone that I demonstrated earlier. They make a little shotgun one that's about this big. It's still something else to carry on this, but it doesn't make it unwieldy. This is still perfect for carrying to things at conventions. The walleye view camera type, I don't know why they didn't fix that in the camera, but it's very easy to fix in post. It's literally 2 clicks in DaVinci Resolve, super easy. But I'm surprised that they didn't just make it, I don't know why they made that the standard. But either way, it's very easy to fix. It's a minor nitpick. Just like this next thing, which is kind of a minor nitpick. When you're holding this camera for a longer period of time and you're using the gimbal quite a bit, you're going to start to feel heat around this band right here. That's where all the motors for the servos and gears and everything else for the gimbal are. And you're going to start to feel a little bit of warmth. It's not uncomfortable, but you will feel it. That also directly links to the next thing that I want to talk about, which is battery life. So it's very easy to swap the battery on this. You just pop that off with this little button on the bottom and you can get to the battery. That's fantastic, and you can swap them quickly. The problem is, currently, there aren't any available. So you can get them from Snap-G, but we haven't gone through that period where, you know, somebody like Wasabi or somebody like that is making batteries that you can easily pick up. So while these are commodity batteries, they're not so widely available. Maybe by the time you listen to this video, they will be, but not quite there yet. It'll be nice when I can throw these, a couple of these in my bag and not worry about it. You will get about the same battery life out of this camera as you do out of something like a DJI Pocket, about 2.5 to 3 hours of filming and heavy gimbal use. You'll get more depending on, you know, how often it spends in standby or how much you're shooting videos versus pictures. You can also get a little bit more battery life by lowering the brightness on the screen, but let's just say 2.5 to 3 hours is a good benchmark. So you'll probably end up with more battery life than you have storage. The storage, thankfully, is this little tiny card. It's a micro SD card. The problem being, I just ejected it. I almost have no way of getting that out. I end up having to go get a pair of tweezers to tweeze that out. If they had just faced it the other way where I could grip it, that'd be nice, but I mean, these are really minor nitpicks. The other great thing about this camera though is the price. So I think the Snap-G, or I should say ThinkWare, is still trying to figure out where to price this, because I've seen this kind of all over the place on pricing on Amazon. I've seen it as low as $279, I've seen it as high as $329. So keep an eye out for a sale on this, and you're gonna easily beat anybody else that's in the market. It's gonna easily trump something like the DJI Pocket 2, which I've seen those go as high as $500 depending on the model. So you can get every bit of features out of a $500 camera for something that costs half, and that's hard to beat. So look for our full review at gamingtrend.com, where I go over all the features, including the AI functions, which are pretty important to this camera. I'm Ron Burke, editor-in-chief for gamingtrend.com. I hope you've gotten something useful out of this. If so, consider hitting that like and subscribe so you can see what we do next. Stay safe out there, and we'll see you again very soon.